What is up, you guys? Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. So before we get into the video, I want to say that the topic that I have today is not one that I'm going to say I have an answer for, because I honestly think that would be kind of arrogant of me to say that. But this is more just a thought that came into my head and something that I really wanted to talk about and speak to you guys about, because I feel like if there's anybody to talk to about this, it's you guys. So with that being said, let's jump into the topic. So what today's video is about is, recently I've realized that almost everyone, I don't want to say everybody, but I honestly think that it's everybody that I've met that's lost a lot of weight, but almost everybody that I've met that's lost a massive amount of weight has dealt with some sort of eating disorder, disordered relationship with food, or just a really unhealthy relationship with food after they've lost the weight. In this video, I kind of just want to talk about why I think people get to that point, myself included, you know, how I got there, and what I think can be done to maybe, hopefully, help it. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say I have an answer, because again, I think that would be arrogant, but hopefully this video will start a conversation, and maybe we can help some people that are starting their weight loss journey to, hopefully when they do lose the weight, have a good relationship with food, and they won't have to deal with these issues that I've had to deal with and countless other people have had to deal with as well. So when I talk about having eating disorders or disordered relationship with food or unhealthy relationship with food, the main things that I'm kind of talking about is either like anorexia. A lot of people that lose a lot of weight end up losing it very unhealthily. I think that's a pretty obvious one of how that comes about, right? You end up losing weight and then you just end up eating less and less and less to the point where you're not eating anything at all. I think that one's a pretty obvious one. Not saying that it's, you know, it's easy to understand, but I think that one's easy to understand how you might get to that point. And then there's, you know, there's obviously bulimia. There's one of the more talked about ones now, that this is the one that I dealt with, was binge eating disorder, which is a really, really hard one to deal with, I feel like, because you feel like you're doing so well, and then you have those days where you just absolutely ruin everything. And then there's also, on the opposite side, there's like orthorexia, right? Where you're so focused on eating healthy food that you're afraid to eat anything that would be considered unhealthy. And that's actually that's a really hard one to deal with too, because if you're trying to go out with friends and family and you've lost your weight, you feel like you can never go out. You feel like you're kind of trapped in this healthy box that you have to stay in. And I think a lot of people get to that point, because I know myself included, I used to struggle with this a little bit, was because I felt like I had to prove something to the people I was going out to eat with. I always felt like I had to prove stuff to the people I was around, like, I'm healthy, I never eat anything unhealthy, so whenever I would go out to eat, I would try and do my best to order the healthiest thing, not even because I felt like I needed it. A lot of times it was because I felt like I needed to prove it to everyone else that was around me. So a couple of the reasons that I feel like we develop these, you know, unhealthy relationships with food when we lose a lot of weight is, first, I think that a lot of us view weight loss, especially at the very beginning, as an all or nothing kind of thing. So we take it as this thing that we have to do as fast as possible, and it's like, I can't enjoy this. This is not something that's gonna be fun. I just really have to push through and grind really hard. Once you're, you know, to your goal weight, you don't have a plan of attack then. And that's really important. Like, having a plan of attack when you've lost the weight is super important, because again, like I've talked about this a little bit. I was actually doing an Instagram live this morning where I was talking about this. We get so attached to the thought of losing weight fast. Like, I remember in my Instagram bio, when I first started my Instagram, I had it like 160 pounds lost in 1 year, something like that. I'm not sure if it was that much, but I remember I had it like this amount of weight lost in this amount of time. And I thought that was really cool, and people would message me about it. But in reality, right, like 5 years later, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter how fast I lost the weight. It doesn't matter at all. Nobody cares. Almost nobody asks me how fast I lost the weight, because they've seen that I've kept it off for 5 years. And that's what people want, right? I'm assuming if you're trying to lose weight, your goal is to keep that weight off for as long as possible, hopefully for the rest of your life. But we get so attached to, when you're in the middle of the weight loss, of trying to lose it as fast as possible, because you're in that all or nothing mentality of like, this sucks really bad, so you make it suck worse than it needs to. Like, you don't need to lose 30 pounds in a month to be happy with your weight loss. If you lose 10 pounds, that's still good, and you're probably not grinding as hard and like running yourself down as much as if you were, you know, losing 10 pounds a month. And then once you get to that goal weight, you're not as like, oh my gosh, finally I got to this weight, now I can do whatever I want, or now I can eat what I want. you'll probably have a better plan of attack once you get there, and that is incredibly important when you do hit that goal weight. The other thing that I think we do when we're losing weight is we start to label food too much. Now, I understand that there's trigger foods for people. You know, there was things that I just did not eat when I was losing weight. There's still things that I don't drink, like soda and stuff like that, full calorie soda. I don't see a benefit in it, so I completely avoid that stuff, right? But for a lot of us, we start putting these healthy, unhealthy labels on foods that I don't think need to be there. Now, I understand there's foods that are more beneficial and probably make more sense to lose weight, right? Like leafy greens and broccoli and stuff like that. That's gonna fill you up more than eating Pop-Tarts every day. But if you put the label of unhealthy on Pop-Tarts, I can never eat them, I will never eat them again, like that's just not realistic. And a lot of people start doing that, but then it turns into like this thing where it's like, I need to label every food, and you just become so obsessed with that once you get down to that goal weight, you almost feel like you need to be more restrictive to continue, you know, to stay where you are in your weight, and then you start restricting even more. And that's what I started doing. Was once I actually hit my goal weight, it was like I was grasping at straws to try and stay where I was and not gain the weight back, that I started restricting even more and making things that maybe I at first thought were maybe, you know, healthy and that I could have in my diet, being like, you know what, I need to put this on the unhealthy shelf and never touch it again. If you ask people what's healthy and what's unhealthy foods, everybody's gonna have a different answer. So it's really hard to, you know, quantify what you think that is. And you know, with orthorexia, that's a huge thing that people deal with. And again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I have the answers, but I do wanna give a couple points that I think would help somebody that is starting their weight loss journey to hopefully avoid these things, so once you do lose the weight, you're not struggling with these relationships with food. The first thing is just be okay with it taking maybe longer than you want, because in reality, in 5 or 10 years, nobody's gonna care how long it took you to lose the weight. The second thing is become educated. I always talk about this, but knowledge is power, especially in weight loss. If you know why you're losing weight, if you know what foods are doing to your body, you just have so much more answers. You know why things are happening. You don't feel like you're just kind of shooting at the wind and hoping it works. You're like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly how many calories I'm eating. I know what these calories are doing to my body. And I know it might seem like, oh, that's so much to learn, but it really isn't that hard to learn a little bit about nutrition, so you're not just kind of trusting some program that you're on. You're not trusting some, you know, person that's helping you lose weight. You're trusting yourself and your knowledge, and you understand what's going on. So when you maybe do start gaining weight a little bit or something like that starts happening, you know what's going on, and you can't kind of be like, you know, ignorance is bliss. You're like, no, I know what I'm doing wrong. I know what I need to change. That is such a crucial part of losing the weight, but then keeping it off for a long time as well. Another tip is to not be married to an end goal, an end weight, or something like that, because so many of us get so focused on that end weight that we start doing things that we don't really need to do, really cutting back, cutting calories to get to an end weight that might not even be something that's good for us. Like for me, I always thought that I wanted to be 180 pounds, and I was 180 pounds on stage for my Men's Physique show. That is way too small for me. That's not at all healthy for me to maintain. That's not something that's gonna happen for me. I weigh about 205 pounds now, and I feel like I look completely healthy. I feel completely healthy. But if in my head I was married to, I have to be 180 pounds, or I'm not at my goal weight yet, I would just be dieting and binging and dieting and binging for eternity. I would always feel like I'm not able to get to my goal weight, and then I feel like I never won, right? For me, I feel like I won. I might not be 180 pounds, but I'm dang healthy. I'm happy where I'm at. I don't feel like I need to diet. So that's a huge thing. I don't feel like you need to be married to some arbitrary number that you thought of when you were 300 pounds heavier or whatever it might be, right? Like, you don't know what your body's gonna look like. You don't know how you're gonna feel at certain weights. So just take it slowly and decide what your goal is as you get closer. Obviously, if you're 300 pounds overweight, you know that you want to lose at least 200 pounds, right? That's fine. But like saying that I want to be this weight, it just doesn't make sense, because you don't know what your body's going to look like at that weight. You don't know how you're going to feel at that weight. And the last thing I want to say is kind of a message to people that have lost weight that might be struggling with this. I just want to let you know that if you are struggling with this, I feel like it's pretty freaking normal, so you shouldn't feel ashamed of it at all. You shouldn't feel like you're weird at all, because I feel like it's more normal than you probably think. And then to the people that are losing weight, I'm not trying to make this video to scare people saying like, once you lose weight, you're definitely gonna have issues with food, but it's just something that I've noticed, and for me not to bring it up, I feel like would be kind of silly. There's no reason not to talk about these things, and this is stuff that's not talked about enough, and that's why I'm so happy that I have this channel. But with that said, I would love to hear what you guys think. If you're someone that's lost a lot of weight, if you're trying to lose weight, if you think any of these, you know, tips are good. I don't know, I could be completely wrong, who knows, right? Like, I wanted to film this video to obviously share my thoughts, but then hear what you guys have to think, because it really is something that I've noticed, and it's like literally with every single person I've talked to that's lost a lot of weight, they have some sort of issue. And I mean, I don't want that to happen, but that's just the reality of what it is. So I would love to hear what you guys have to think. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I genuinely appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. There was one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh yeah, look up a fam.
Obey the warning signs, and when there are flashing lights or wigwags, don't attempt to cross until they come to a complete stop.